What's up, Diablo 4 players? So brand new update with the Mythic uniques. So what are Mythic uniques really quick? They're basically just Uber uniques, but they have been updated in Season 5 to not only be purple, but massive buffs and kind of reworks on some of these items. So let's go over these important changes that you want to know. So starting right off, let's take a look at Ring of the Starless Skies, which was already a good item. You can see on the left side where it has its old stat, and the right side has the new stats. Now, if you're wondering, do you need to get a new one to get these new bonuses? Yes, basically. So to explain why is that all these stats at the top where it says lucky hit chance, critical strike, crit strike damage, core damage, those will actually stay the same. When the new update hits, if you have an old Ring of the Starless Skies, the newer unique ability at the very bottom over here, that will be updated. So basically, you still need to get a new one unless you want the older legacy one. Well, pretty much they're always going to be better to get the newer one. So just as some knowledge here. So let's hop right into it. So for starters, Ring of the Starless Skies, let's go over the new update. So basically, we are going to no longer gain core damage, but it's okay because we get plus ranks to core skills. That is actually pretty dang good. There's also a update to a lot of the stats. So we have lucky hit chance getting increased. We have critical strike chance getting more than double off the base, which becomes even further powerful because once you masterwork, maybe get those crits on it, or if you happen to get a greater affix, well, those numbers are going to go even higher. We no longer have critical strike damage, which is fine. We get this lucky hit chance getting increased again over here, but yeah, you lose to critical strike damage, but I think it's worth it overall for the attack speed. That is something that is brand new here, and it's a pretty decent amount. So attack speed caps are probably going to be pretty easy to hit, and then the unique power of the item is actually going to be the same. Spending your primary resource reduces the resource cost of your skills and increases your damage by 10x for 3 seconds up to 50x. So the special power is the same. This is probably going to be one of the best items in the game for almost every single build. Really, really good. The only build that you wouldn't benefit off of this is maybe some dot builds because you don't need a critical strike chance. But even in some dot builds, getting that lucky hit chance is still pretty good. And then also gives you some resource cost reduction. So it still could maybe be used. It depends on the dot build that you are doing. If you're doing Andariel as well, the thing is that still getting the lucky hit chance is quite good, and if you need the resource cost reduction, I mean, it still gives you just an X damage, and that's really hard to give up for a 50X. On average, 20 to 30X is the average on an aspect, and the thing that's really nice with Ring of Starless Skies is already that you get this plus like 20 to all resistances. It's actually a pretty nice thing to have. So next up over here, we've got the Doombringer. Doombringer is actually getting some massive buffs as well. So looking at the item over here, we got plus to all stats. This is a pretty big numerical change over here, giving us 114 all stats. That's really good. You also get plus 35 maximum life, and if we look at the previous one, it's 26. So just again, when you start masterworking, you're going to get even more powerful, or if you hit a greater affix. But these are Uber uniques. Don't expect to hit the greater affix drops consistently. You also have this like lucky hit chance to heal, which is okay. That you still have with the previous one over here, and it looks like they have basically doubled it. You can see it goes from 1,058 to 26, so more than double actually. Good stuff over there. And then damage reduction, which is, I think, kind of the newer stat. That's a new premium stat in the game. And then on top of that, what I found even crazier was this was already good. We've already got a build guide for a Doombringer rogue build. If you guys haven't seen that, definitely check it out. It is very, very worth checking it out if you like some lucky hit builds and you maybe don't want to play with Andariels. That's cool. You can do Doombringer, Azarath, as well as Andariels, kind of throw them all together. But what you get with this is crazy amounts of damage. I already thought the damage was quite good already, and now it's going to be even more powerful. Now, this scales with the character where it says 25% chance to deal whatever damage, right? Now, this actually got increased to 10 times over. Now, again, this one I'm going to say take a grain with salt. If this actually is 10 times the damage as it used to be, I don't know, again, it depends on the character that's mousing over the item. It determines their, like, character's power. But if this is getting like a 10 times damage buff, Yeah, Doombringer might be one of the best things in the entire game for a lot of builds. Not only do you get crazy survivability, but you have a crazy lucky hit. And with one of the brand new updates for the lucky hit chance on, I believe, Fist of Fate, I mean, this is going to just go crazy. Again, good survivability and good damage. Doombringer looking really, really strong. You can run this on Rogue as well as Barbarian, but technically, you could run it on Necromancer, but I just think those two builds in particular could maybe benefit off it the most. Next up, we have the Avarion, the Spirit of Lycander, which I really said needed a buff, and let's check out the buff. So, what's interesting with it is we actually lose out on critical strike chance, which was actually a pretty big stat to lose out on, and you also lose out on attack speed. And I was like, what the heck are they doing? Well, you still get some stats here, but they're completely reworked. So you get percents to all stats. Now, if this rolls with a greater affix, I could see this being really insane. There's a couple of Druid items that give you percent willpower. Now, if you get percent to all stats, you get percent, to, like, let's say willpower and percent. I believe there's 2 rings on Druid that can give you percent to willpower, right? You run this, you get all of those greater affix, and we're getting the new update in Season 5 for the Druid. Instead of requiring 10 willpower to get 1% damage, it only requires 8. So you could maybe make a willpower stacker here and just get a crazy amount of willpower. It also gives you increased movement speed, which is kind of weird because normally weapons don't roll it, but again, the newer philosophy with Diablo Season 5 is that they're going to allow a lot of stats to not normally roll on certain items, and we have 33% increased movement speed, which is good. Then we have resistances. So resistances, they're not really useful on a Druid as well as a Sorc as much as other classes, but now you're just going to be able to res cap super easy without even trying. And then there's a chance to restore a primary resource. And then you gain a random shrine effect for 20 seconds after killing elite. Now, this has too long of a cooldown. I feel like that if they just deleted the cooldown, it might be actually very viable. But there's another stat where they remove the damage to crowd control to critical strike, vulnerable, and overpowered damage. So you not only get crit, but you also get vulnerable damage. You also get overpower, so maybe you could mess around with something with like a bear Druid, but I mean, it's like 300%. It is technically in the additive category. If it was an X, then it would be a lot better, but I'm curious to know, what do you guys think of Spear of Lycander? I still think that it is overall too weak, because remember, you're sacrificing the tempering ability, and you cannot temper on the, Mythic uniques. So, let me know, guys, if you think this is good. I still think this is probably one of the worst Uber uniques so far. That and Melted Heart of Selig so far, but we haven't gotten to that yet. Now, Grandfather is pretty crazy, and I was like, no way did they actually do this, because Barbarian actually received a lot of nerfs, right, in the most recent update that they've been talking about. And what have they changed with the Grandfather? Because let's be honest, it's pretty much just the Barbarian that is running this item. So the newer update over here gives us not only a huge amount of all stats, which it had before, but it's like doubled, which is great. It still has pretty much the same maximum life, is like a 10% increase here. And then we have maximum resource, which works well with Lockhorn's Talisman, which is pretty much the best new amulet for Season 5 and going forward. They removed the ignore durability loss on the bottom, but they added it to the top. And then we have 300% damage. Now, the unique or mythic unique power is the exact same. So it's 100x crit multiplier in terms of its crit strike damage. But then you also have a double implicit. So they have 150% damage here and then 300% damage. So Barbarian might not look like that bad, considering this is 450%. Remember, you don't even have to roll this as a range. It's an uber unique. Now, if you get this to roll greater affix, I mean, we're looking at 450 plus 150. I know greater affix plus uber unique, it's like good luck, man. But at the end of the day, 450% increased damage on the base might not be that bad. Again, remember, we're getting some nerfs with Barbarian, but I think that this is making Barbarian look a lot more viable. I mean, again, it's additive, but you still get a massive amount. So let me know, guys, what you think of Grandfather. I think that this is a pretty massive, win for Barbarian. Now, let's get into this. I haven't seen this, but I'm excited about this because I always felt like this item was a really cool, unique item. So they actually changed the implicit here. So instead of 25 all res, you get 30 all res, plus you also get plus 3% maximum to all elements, which is actually pretty dang good as well. And then I'm not sure if also the implicits actually get upgraded when you masterwork. Obviously, you can't crit on the implicits, but who knows if that will also just get increased. I don't think you're going to be able to masterwork crit that, but on top of that, we also have lucky hit chance at a 15%. Which before we didn't get lucky hit. We also have increased movement speed, so that's another buff there. And we have 15% damage reduction while healthy, so that's going to be nice. We lose out on damage, but this is additive. We also have resource generation, which is okay, I guess. We have 60% maximum resource, and then the unique power is when taking damage, 75% is drained as resource for every 1% of maximum life you would have lost. So the power is the same. Now, as far as this goes, I'd still say that these are kind of weak. We don't really need defensive amulet slots because as like a uber unique, right? The reason why is you can just get an amulet with a couple like of your key your passives on your skill tree, and then you can get about the same amount. Is this really worth it? No, I just don't see this unless you really need the maximum because you're doing some like really hard content. Maybe in the expansion there's going to be some super hard content where you need this plus maximum all res. That's an insanely good stat, but we don't really need it in the current state of Diablo 4. So I would say Melted Heart of Selig and the Spear of Lycander not looking too hot still, and they're pretty much in the bottom tier of the uber uniques. And then next up we have the Tyrael's Might. This is crazy. I actually saw this one. So you have ignored durability loss, whatever, it doesn't really matter as an implicit. We also have movement speed added to the item, so that's cool. And then we have plus to maximum resistance to all elements that got increased by 50% of its stats because it went from 5 to 7.5, which means masterworking this is going to be even stronger. We also just let us max out on resistance. 60 to all res is crazy. And then we just get 20 damage reduction, 20% damage reduction, which is good. Now, I don't think that this is nerfed. You see where it says while at full life. Again, going back to Doombringer again, it matters who is mousing over this item and like the character's power here, because obviously they're not like nerfing it. I would say if anything they would probably be buffing it because they've been doing a little bit better of a job in terms of like, you know, making players happy instead of nerfing, mostly buffs overall. Some of them are kind of getting reworked over here, but let me know guys what you think of Tyrael's. I think it's a great change. Again, for a lot of classes, you just run this, you're done with resistances. It's so easy. Ideally, you crit this on the masterworking, and movement speed is always a nice thing to have. And then again, you're getting double damage reduction, so that means if you masterwork crit that, it's even better. So overall, massive buffs over there. And then Andariel's over here. Let's check out the newer effect. Again, as far as lucky hit, this number can be kind of hard to determine how good that actually is. But we get more all stats. We now don't have lifesteal. This got deleted, which is weird because it's now a newer stat on the Spiritborn, which is in Season 6. But instead of lifesteal, we get life on hit. Now, this could be a really good stat, could be a really bad stat. I'm not sure like how it's going to interact with like healing, like extra percentage. Does that work with life on hit? Because I think it was like a YouTube short or something. The lifesteal in the far end game on the Uber bosses, I was literally getting 1 HP. It's just broken. It doesn't work. I think that there's some sort of like diminishing return as you go higher in the difficulty in the game, that it doesn't explain this. So you think that, oh, if I hit for billions of damage, 2% of a billion or a million damage for my HP that's like 20, 30k, that should be like instantly full. It doesn't work that way. So this stat got deleted and it's now life on hit, which could be actually quite useful. I don't think it's a worthless stat. Now, on top of that, we tripled the Andariel's attack speed. That's crazy. Now, you can already reach attack speed cap if you played my Andariel build that also used Flurry, as well as it was Puncture, and you can even play it with Heartseeker, and getting an extra 30% attack speed is great. That way you may not need to run the combo point Flurry to actually gain, like, I think it was Zariel's build that got popularized by using Flurry with that so you can get more attack speed. But now you might not need to actually do the combo point thing, which is kind of cool because Rogue has a lot more toys now. But this could be actually a pretty good item. And then on top of it, we get 10% maximum poison resistance, which is pretty awesome. And you also get 666 poison resistance. I like that. So that's kind of cool. So you equip this, you're immune to poison, and like as far as like damage, like that's a huge amount. I'm sure some of you guys still probably played, maybe done some like nightmare dungeons where you take poison damage and your HP just starts to drain. There's actually, it's not always just poison damage. There's actually a couple other damage over time things, but this could definitely help out with that because I still think that poison just, it feels really awkward to deal with. Sometimes your health just drains way too fast. So this will definitely help out with that, especially if you run like this plus Tyrael's. I mean, that's going to be like it's 85% damage reduction on specifically that element, which is great. Now, the thing that everyone's excited about is the brand new Harlequin, but we're actually losing some stats for some builds, but overall, I would say it's probably a buff. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So this is the Shaco buff. So Harlequin, it got changed over here. So we got increase of maximum life, so that's a win. You can see cooldown reduction on the second stat got changed. Now we instead have 7, we get 20. That's basically triple the stats. That's massive. And then instead of resource generation, we get maximum resource. Now, depending on your build, this could be a win or a loss, but again, it's kind of hard to say which one is going to be better. But for a lot of builds, it will be running the brand new Amulet Lockhorn's Talisman. This is going to be a better stat to actually have. And then another thing that is quite nice, we do lose out on the all stats, which it's kind of nice, but there's a lot of other things that are giving you more all stats now. But the 2,500 armor is quite nice. This can help you armor cap yourself depending on your build. You may not need to roll armor or temper one of the things that gives you ranks bonus to armor, which is kind of nice. And then the unique power is going to be the exact same. So this did not change with the Harlequin. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to keep this video a little bit shorter. I don't want to go over every unique, but I'm going to be making class specific ones. So if this is your first time here and you do want to see the update to all of the classes for Season 5, I'm going to be dropping them very soon, but I felt like the uber unique ones are kind of the most important. Let me know, guys, what uber unique are you guys most excited about, or essentially the mythic uniques, the new purple items. Which one are you most excited about for its buff? Personally, for me, if the Doombringer actually gets like 10x damage, again, that's kind of like up in the air, it's still giving you massive amount of stats. I mean, 114 to all stats can maybe hit 2, maybe 3 different Paragon board nodes that you normally didn't hit. I mean, it's overall a nice buff. I mean, Ring of Starless Skies is getting a nice buff, especially because once you crit Masterwork, the core skills, that's a pretty big one to actually hit. So massive buffs, not really any nerfs at all. But I would say, just for feedback as a Diablo partner, I think they need to buff Melted Heart and the Spear. These ones, I don't really know if people are going to be wanting to run this. Again, sacrificing double, of your like tempers and stuff on a two-handed. That's a pretty big thing to give up for the Stork and the Druid. But that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like. If you do, subscribe to the bell so you don't miss out on the other updates. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.